Welcome back. Here with the news at 1. Now, tomorrow on St. Patrick's Day, the feast of our national saint, bars and restaurants across the country, normally filled with people, will fall silent. It's estimated that 50,000 people in the pub trade are out of work today. Those working in childcare and many in the service industry are also without jobs. Peter Marks, the chain of hair salons, has become the latest employer to close all of its salons on the island of Ireland until the 29th of March. Last night, the government announced new measures that will allow employers to keep paying workers at least a job seeker rate of €203 a week if companies have to cease trading. It means workers retain their link with the employers and don't need to submit a job seeker's claim. Regina Doherty is Minister for Social Protection and she's in our Dáil studio. Regina Doherty, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Justin.
Has your department estimated how many people are out of work today as a result of COVID-19?
We've done some modelling numbers, but what we have done, I suppose, is moved very, very swiftly to try and cope with what we think is an unprecedented ask, particularly on the job seekers section and schemes that we have. And that's why, and I thank you for saying this, that's why we have asked employers where they can to continue to keep people on their books and pay them the minimum of the €203 per week, which is the equivalent of a job seeker's rate, and that our department will refund them that money in the coming weeks.
How many people are you talking about?
It's hard to fathom. We have had 20,000 new presentations on Friday. The offices up and down the country are open today, but we are asking people not to call. But there are steady flows of people coming to our offices. There are people applying online on mygov.ie, and we have established obviously ways for people to be able to apply for the new COVID job seekers scheme without having to come in. So you can download the one-page application form and send it back to us through free post PO Box 12896 in Dublin, and we will get people on a payment, albeit that it's an emergency payment, as quickly as we possibly can in the coming days.
OK, now for workers first, for if employers are willing to take part in the scheme, is it through that form that they access the payment?
No, so if employers are continuing to keep their staff on their books, we would ask them that they continue to pay the minimum of the €203 per week, or pro rata depending on the hours that the employee works.
OK, and the employee then doesn't need to do anything. They will be paid at least the €203 a week if their employer is agreeable.
Absolutely. It ensures continuity of an income for the employees, but also it ensures the relationship continuity between the employee and the employer.
Yes.
So that when things do come back in the next couple of weeks, they will be able to pick up where they left off. And we will reimburse those employers through a means which I will announce after Cabinet tomorrow. And that will be given, the details of how to make that reimbursement claim to employers will be made announced tomorrow or Wednesday.
OK, and how long do you think it will take before employers will get paid by the state?
I would expect it wouldn't be more than a number of weeks. The new COVID job seekers payment has a lifespan of 6 weeks. And the reason for that is number one is to get people onto an emergency payment. But number two, it will take us a number of weeks to get people onto the correct payment. And so in a lot of cases, people will apply for job seekers benefit and they will obviously qualify. A lot of cases, people will apply for job seekers allowance and they will qualify. We had a number of questions today with regard to students, with regard to people who are already on a social welfare payment, such as widows or widowers. All of those will be available to be answered not only on our website, but in a frequently asked questions document that we're compiling today and I'll release this afternoon. But the most important priority was, because of the unprecedented numbers that we know are going to come and that we saw on Friday, was to get people onto a payment, to give them a security of an income before the end of this week.
But just to be clear then, you are asking employers that they may have to pay their staff for a number of weeks before they get reimbursed by the state.
I will have more clarity on that tomorrow. We're just trying to finalise how we reimburse employers. It could be very easy for us to do, and we're working that out now. It could be that we need to find a newer route to find a way to pay it. But I will have the answers for you, Justin, if not tomorrow, by Wednesday at the latest.
Okay.
But we currently work a revenue system that's in real time. There's no reason for people to think that it would be more than a week or a couple of weeks at the most. So we are asking people to maintain a relationship with their employees where they can can afford to. And if they can't, obviously the new COVID-19 job seekers payment is available for all of those people who have been laid off.
Okay, and for those people then, do those people need a public services card to access that payment?
Absolutely not. We moved last night, and I hope it was seen as being swift and in a response to the unprecedented presentations that came to our department on Friday. It's a one-page application form. You can download it online and send it back to us through the free post PO Box 12896. It's a short-term payment for 6 weeks until we can get you to make an application form to the correct payment. It will be paid at €203 per week until we move you to either job seekers benefit, job seekers allowance, with the qualifying payments that may go with that for dependent adults or dependent children. But it was just to ensure continuity of an income into the household as immediately as we could, and that's the best response that we could come up with, which was a one-page application form, and you do not have to come into the offices, the Intero offices, to make that application form. You can either do it online, and if you want to do it online, you do need a card. If you don't want to do it online, just download the form from welfare.ie and send it to us by post, and we'll have responded to you within a matter of days.
Okay, but the easiest way to do it is using your public services card, is that correct?
If you have one, and we know some 3.2 million people do have one, if you have one, you can go onto mygov.ie, do it online, and you'll be responded to within a matter of days. If you don't have one, then just go onto the welfare.ie website, download the new COVID-19 job seekers application form, which is only a one-page application form, and send it back to us by free post.
Okay, what about payments like working family payments or people on community employment schemes? Will they still get their money even if their hours have been cut as a result of coronavirus, or if they can't work?
So there'll be no change to our community employment or our two schemes. People will continue to stay on those schemes and they will continue to receive their payments. And I think actually in the coming weeks you'll see that we will probably draw on those people with regard to community responses for the needs of our citizens. And I know Michael Ring is coordinating that response. For people who are on working family payment, under normal circumstances, Justin, if you're working, you get working family payment. If you're not working, you don't, because the job seekers payment will identify where there are qualified adults that are dependent on you or qualified children, and that payment will be adjusted accordingly. But right now...
So they will get less money?
Well, not necessarily. They could actually get more. But right now, people who have lost their jobs, regardless of their circumstances, but in the main because of COVID-19, can apply for the new COVID-19 job seekers payments. And they will receive it for the next 6 weeks until we figure out what payment they should be on and move them to the appropriate payment should they need it for a longer period.
Okay, now staff working in your department, they'll no doubt be under a lot of pressure today. How quickly can all of these payments be processed?
Well, we're doing it within 48 hours at the moment. So for argument's sake, the people that arrived on Friday should see their payments being awarded today or tomorrow. But it's because of the unprecedented numbers, number one, of applying for either the job seekers payment or, as we expect, the illness payment, that we moved to this very, very simplified one-page application form. And I genuinely would like to thank my staff and also indeed the Irish public for the courtesy that they're showing in our offices up and down the country. But our staff are working 24, not 24 hours a day, but they've been working all over the weekend to try and get up to speed and catch up on those 20,000 applications that were received on Friday. And I would like to thank them for their efforts, but also to thank the Irish people for their forbearance with regard to the free phone number that we established this morning, and also coming and interacting in our Intero offices. All
right, Minister for Social Protection, Regina Doherty, thank you for joining us on the News at 1. Now, Ryanair has said it plans to ground the majority of its fleet across Europe over the next 7 to 10 days, and said it will have to make significant reductions in working hours and payments. We can talk now to Eoghan Corry, the editor of Travel Extra. Eoghan, thanks for joining us on the News at 1.
Good afternoon, Justin.
This is going to be a massive impact on the aviation sector. Ryanair now moving to ground its flights.
It's already happened. I can tell you now 50% of Ryanair's fleet have already been grounded. They've about 300 aircraft. They don't operate them all at this time of the year. It's not the busiest time of the year. But what we've seen is effectively the east and the north of the continent shutting down between flight bans and closing of borders. It's easier now to name the markets that are open. They're mainly Spain, Portugal, France, Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, Ireland and Britain. And what happens next, nobody can tell, but it is likely, the way things are moving, that some of those major markets will also start restricting flights between now and we could end up by the weekend with Ryanair's entire fleet almost being grounded. Britain and Ireland probably the last to stay open, but there won't be many places to fly to. It'll be sort of Dublin to Gatwick and not very much else.
And for Irish citizens who are abroad now, what advice would you have for those people? Do they need to move quickly before the planes are grounded?
Get home quickly, but this is important. The airline is under a contract to bring you home. When there isn't a very sudden flight ban, that's the only thing that can interfere with that contract. The big news destinations are Spain and Poland, which shut down very suddenly over the weekend. We've about 166 flights a week to Spain at this time of the year, so quite a lot of people out there. Simon Coveney obviously got through his weight behind the effort yesterday. That is important for one reason. The Spanish government and the regional government of the Canaries will pay a lot more attention. But what the airlines are running into a problem with is that air traffic control no-shows for various reasons. Obviously, there's a lot of fear out there. There was 50% no-shows in the air traffic control at the weekend, and even airport security also, staff declining, and the system, the infrastructure seems to be disintegrating or at that level, and that caused havoc on Saturday when some of the repatriation flights had to be cancelled, not because the airlines cancelled them, but because of air traffic control. I don't see that getting any better. There could be more blips in that in the days ahead.
Dublin Airport also reporting today, Eoghan, that passenger numbers are down around 60%, and most of the flights coming in now are catering for people who are actually just coming home.
The airport is operating very efficiently. The queues are down. The only two flights today are cancelled, are Poznan and Krakow. But on the other side, a lot of people trying to get home. They have flight change options from both Aer Lingus and Ryanair. And Ryanair just the last few minutes extended the flight change option to April, the whole of April, and are advising passengers not to fly in April, which sees that they expect this to run a little bit. But getting back is the information flow has been a little bit problematic, but I would appeal to passengers to be very patient with the airlines and with the travel agents indeed that are dealing with a huge number of people.
Yes.
The airlines are good at this, by the way, Justin. They cope with like the big March snow of 2018. Some listeners would remember as far back as the ash cloud. They're very good at having a lot of flights cancelled for weather and getting everybody home. What they do is they run extra flights. Aer Lingus have the option of putting their A330s that are on transatlantic runs down to Spain to get large numbers of passengers home. The difference this time is when there isn't any knowledge of when the snow is going to melt.
All right, Eoghan Corry, editor of Travel Extra, thank you for bringing us those details.